Shonen Jump is one of the largest manga publications in the world, and its hallowed pages have produced some of the most popular and influential series in the manga community. Dragon Ball, Bleach, JoJo, and the ever-present One Piece all got their start in this magazine, so it makes sense that there's a sense of prestige attached to the name Weekly Shonen Jump, and with that prestige comes a nearly impossible standard for any new blood that enters the magazine. Any new series that is lucky enough to reach the pages of Jump is met with the crushing expectation of success, and if they don't succeed, they get the axe. The axe is an ever-present fear for anyone who reads Jump. I even know quite a few people who refuse to read a series until it avoids the axe early on. But what about the series that aren't so lucky? The ones that were cancelled and have been left to the sands of time? Today, that's exactly what I've chosen to explore. Starting with a series I read fairly recently, Hi-Fi Cluster. The story of Hi-Fi Cluster follows Jojo, a young boy who is unable to use labels, a recently developed technology in his world that allows individuals to download skills and use them for a short time. After a run-in with a gang and the police, he discovers the existence of high-end labels, called Hi-Fis, that grant the abilities of history's most talented individuals, and finds himself the chosen user of Hi-Fi SCRTS, or Socrates. And from there, he is basically forced to join the police's task force for taking care of illegal Hi-Fi use, Special Unit 6, because the alternative is prison. So yeah, it's pretty standard shonen fare, an underdog stumbling into some power unique to him, and ending up under the tutelage of a powerful older master figure. He even has a cute love interest, although she doesn't show up after the third chapter, so yeah. I don't think the series really gets going until about chapter 10, where the main villain, Landscape Mole, dumb name, but he's really fucking rad, I promise, is introduced. The reason I think that's the case is just because he's fun and chaotic. His introduction was the high point for me, because he's just has such a cool and dominating presence, even with his dumb little Dr. Schlump hat. Actually, no, it's because of the Dr. Schlump hat. Walking away from this series, I was just most hurt by not getting to see his character fulfilled and expanded upon, but we'll talk about that more later. So let's talk about the pros of this series. Character design. Boy, do I not understand it, but when I see a dude has roller skates, dual-wield pistols, and whose abilities are based on Isaac fucking Newton, I know that's cool, and he's cool, and his design is rad. Also, there is a dude who can manipulate multiple sets of robot hands and expertly parse information. That's just dope. Any character with an abnormal number of limbs is cool in my book, and I just can't help that. That's who I am. Art is pretty good. Not the best in Jump even at the time, but it's serviceable. I'm not an art critic or anything, and I'll read something even if it's not pretty. Mashal is in my top 5 right now. So take my opinion with a grain of salt. Just know the art wasn't a hindrance to my enjoyment of the series. Power system. If you're making a battle series for any demographic, a big part of its success is rooted in its power system, the way characters fight and progress through its universe. I personally believe that the most important aspect of a power system is that it's understandable. A power system that is understandable will leave readers invested and have them interested in the various forms of powers that can exist in a world. As power systems get more and more complex, this can be difficult to accomplish, but it is most often rewarding. Anyways, back on the main track of this video. The power system of Hi-Fi Cluster, which are Hi-Fi labels, special labels that are capable of imbuing the users with skills of famous individuals. For example, the rollerblade dude from earlier, Kei Akusa, wields file number ISCNWTN, which, as you might be able to guess, is the Hi-Fi label that corresponds to Isaac Newton, the man who discovered gravity. And thus, this Hi-Fi label in particular allows him the ability to control gravity, which is something that Isaac Newton was able to do in his real life. Just kidding, but you understand that there's a very clear link between discovering and being able to control gravity. The Tabata fans in the audience may notice some similarities between this power system and Eureka's from Hungry Joker, another cancelled Jump manga, which has led me to the conclusion that Jump readers hate all power systems based on history and science because they cannot read. Alright, to maintain a sense of balance, let's get some cons out of the way. Character writing. None of the characters really appealed to me from anything but a design standpoint. They were all fairly flat and could be boiled down to generic shonen archetypes. Weak MC, strong mentor, love interest. There is always the possibility that they were planning to expand on these characters more later on, but of course that didn't happen because it didn't last long enough. And if it wanted to last that long, the MC should have been at least interesting from the start. He just wasn't. Late villain introduction. I feel like this is a problem I see a lot while going through all the flops in Shonen Jump. What's even more important than a strong main cast is a villain to challenge them. The fast-paced and cutthroat environment of the modern Shonen Jump doesn't allow for authors to dilly-dally with villains for too long. Another series I think suffers from this is a recent series called Zip Man, which waited until chapter 14 to give the villain a tangible presence in the story. Hi-Fi Cluster waited until very late in its serialization to introduce the character of Landscape Mole, who is in my opinion a really good villain, and if he was introduced sooner, I believe it would have lasted longer. While researching some stuff about the series, I discovered an old forum post talking about the series' cancellation, and most people simply just said it was nothing special. Which, to be fair, is true. Interestingly enough, though, when it was first serialized, it won Viz's poll to be one of the series that was translated. For those of you who don't know, before the glorious gift of Shonen Jump Plus, new series only had their first 3 chapters translated. Then Viz would put up a vote to see which one would get fully translated, while the other 2 would, well, they'd see if it would succeed, and then if it didn't, they wouldn't translate it. So either the series it was up against weren't very good, or the West actually did like Hi-Fi Cluster quite a bit. Upon further inspection, Hi-Fi Cluster launched alongside Judos and Salting Sport, both of which also failed, so I guess none of them won, and none of them were worth it. It released 3 volumes, and while I can't find any sales information, they most likely did not perform very well, as the series was cancelled in January of 2015, its last chapter appearing in Weekly Shonen Jump issue 9 of 2015. Did it deserve better? I certainly think so, but that's because I have many biases to this particular story, and from an objective standpoint, i.e. the most boring standpoint, it wasn't what Shonen Jump really needed at the time, or has needed since. And while the author hasn't had a series published since, I would really like to see more from him. He should still have 2 more chances, and I'd like to see what he could produce, but I don't think that'll ever happen, sadly. He hasn't done it since, so I doubt he will again. Alright, that should do it for the introductory episode of Anatomy of the Axe. This has been an idea I've kicked around for a while, and I'm glad I was finally able to put pen to paper and get it done. I'm also very happy I didn't go with a bad series like I originally planned to, because talking about good things makes me feel good. Anyways, thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.